Do you like games from the early 2010s? Stick around and together we can dive into an early 2010s classic. One that may seem complex on the surface, but in reality is baby's first button masher. We're going to be talking about Torchlight 2. This game, it has a story. It's not very good, and I don't really know what it's about. Most people that have played the game could say the same thing. I actually learned that my dyslexia kicked my ass, and whenever an NPC told me to do something, I would wait for the log to tell me where to go. Like a moth to a flame. In this, I became a glorified fetch quest NPC, mindlessly going to wherever the game world would tell me to go. But nevertheless, here are some things I managed to grasp off Wikipedia and various unreliable memories of the game. The alchemist from Torchlight 1 woke up and realized that the West had truly fallen, and he possessed negative Canthal tilt. Driven by his true nature as the chosen Chud, he decides to wake up and attack the Shangji Copper Co. and obliterate their stakeholders in the town of Torchlight. Upon hearing of the grave tragedy befalling their shareholders, the members of the board pick a mercenary to go get their revenge. As it turns out, destabilizing the industrial mining complex has some unintended consequences for environmental activists everywhere. Suddenly, the islands of rich earth turned to islands of rich plastics, and the waters went from a serene green of Lake Erie to the brown town of the Ganges. You want an easy brain dead time? Go ahead and pick the engineer or the Ember Mage. If you're familiar with AARP regulations, then pick Berserker. I, personally, went with the Ember Mage to satisfy my mild autism. I mainly chose to play this game and review this game because I fucked up my hand and needed one-handed games besides Balatro and old-school RuneScape to play. Most of my gameplay involved holding down the right mouse button and spamming Fire Spear while I let my mind wander somewhere else. I realized by the midpoint of the game is that I was playing it incorrectly, and I should not have done this. But I'm not restarting my game for optimal gains and strats. That's some bullshit that people with time on their hands do. And I'm not going to respec in the middle of town because I can't be bothered to read just so I can spam prismatic wisps. Nah, we're going to commit. We got to fully send the Fire Ember Mage build. I hope you like quests because the majority of the time you're going to be doing quests typically which range from finding items, freeing people, and or killing big monsters. If you're lucky, it might be a mix of all three. If you're not lucky, it might just be one or even two of them. To get from one quest to another, you go through areas which are either overworld areas or dungeons. These are split between narrow, shitty corridors and caves, or there's basically big open areas that are just football fields. To get stronger, you're going to need gear. There's a few ways to get gear. We can kill monsters for loot or do quests for rewards. Sometimes we can buy things from the town vendor, but these tend to suck massive ween. If you ask your average Redditard, they will tell you to cycle through some random ass NPC, but in all reality, whatever the game gives you, just go with it. I managed to get a vampire staff early on, which completely trivialized the first half of the game before being blessed with the Inferno wands. I basically was just given free damage to just hold these two shit sticks. There's also there's also another way you can get stronger. We're just gonna open up Cheat Engine. We're gonna Google and we're gonna look up a real guide. I did the legendary pump all my stats into focus and let it ride. And to be honest, it works. It works way better than I would have expected. You can see right here that it's just everything just gets out of your fucking way. Now, there is one thing that's very special about the game, and it's not the ability to cater to the mildly autistic. We're talking about pets. It's just like Dota, where you got a little stinky fucking thing that you can send back to go get stuff for you. So even if you play solo, which you most likely will after this game has been out for 13 years, you're always going to have a friend. I don't know how the mechanics behind it, and I think it's random for every playthrough. I believe there's about 10 pets total, but I was given the stinky rat. And I also learned that halfway, my pet has its own inventory. Until then, I had simply been running to town to sell all my loot whenever it got full. And in order to figure out if it got full, I would just say my character would just go, you can't pick that up anymore. This is where my autism kicked in a little heavily. Instead of running back to town every time I had a full inventory, I would fill both of our inventories and run back. I then learned of a button on the inventory screen that says, send the pet back to town to sell the items. That's when I learned that IQ was about the same as your average water. I then decided that this feature sucked dick because I have to wait 2 whole minutes for my pet to return, and he only sells 1 inventory full of loot. In those 2 minutes, I could just run back myself by using a fucking waypoint scroll and sell both things and return to where I was. So that's kind of what we went with. We're still just going to send it back and forth. Mainly because if I'm playing Ember Mage, I need the stinky rat boy to take the aggro while I spam. Truly riveting gameplay. I assume back in the day, there's a ton of availability for multiplayer shenanigans. I'm an outlier. I'm a giant chimp. I played this game 12 years after they were, so there's not many people playing it. If you get your buddies together, though, I'm sure you'll be able to find some sort of race war that you can use to divide the group. Mainly because items are class specific. And you have 2 stashes, one that says shared and one that says it's all fucking mine. You could really just take all of the loot from your buddies and throw it in the personal stash and log off, which is precisely why I don't play this game with friends. This game is aged like a fine grape juice. The vanilla experience is truly acceptable for baby's first AARPG. If you know that you like the genre, give it a try. Especially if you were born after 2012. It's one of the classics at this point. If you don't like the classics, go ahead and play Devil's 4 or Path of Exile. With the modding capabilities, there are also endless hours of fun and different experiences to be had throughout all. I have not yet touched the surface of mods, but I assume that I will if my hand keeps doing stupid fucked up shit. And as always, there's more content to come. I do stream on Twitch/YouTube, and I do have socials that I neglect, typically in the description below. Thank you to everyone who watched the video and supported me. If you're watching this at the time of upload, I will be live, and you can come join in the chat. If there's anything you think I should cover next, let me know. And until then, have a good one. I will see you all later.